Hey, this is Sahil. You're listening to the Studio 21 Show, where I get to walk and talk with the people designing Bitcoin products that we all use every single day. Today I'm talking to Courtny Cotten. He's a design leader who's worked at a ton of companies that you know, like Microsoft and Stack Overflow, amongst others. We've actually worked closely together in the past, and he's had a really big impact on my design career. He's also just a really fun and awesome person, so I'm excited for you to join me on my chat with Courtny. Thanks for jumping on here. I don't know, we've been friends for a while, and I'm just excited to talk to you. I feel like we haven't talked in so long.
Well,
I rarely get to see you.
It's been really 2 years since we've been able to sit down and have a conversation about design, your growth as a designer, what you've learned. And there's been a lot that has changed in the industry even.
There's so much.
Both across Bitcoin and the tech, just the general tech industry, right?
I know. And I know we haven't even started this conversation, but I can just tell I have to around two because we don't have a ton of time. And there's just so much I want to ask you about and talk to you about. So I guess starting off, I've been curious because I didn't really get in the weeds with you back in the day when we've known each other for a little bit. You've been at Microsoft, you've been at Stack Overflow, you've done a bunch of different things.
Yes.
And I remember when I've seen some of your work and just that kind of thing, you're a very strong visual designer, I feel like, at least from my perspective. How did you start? What's your journey? How did you even get here? How did you end up at Microsoft and Stack Overflow and these huge names?
I love that question because I think it starts with being a little kid, right? And I think I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, and I loved video games like most kids do. Played Pokemon, played Halo, played Final Fantasy, and those moments of seeing how people created experiences in the digital world, I wanted to do that, right? And that's really what kind of sparked my interest as a creative. And I was always really good at art. So I always was great at drawing, painting, I would draw my own comics and stuff like that. So always been geared that way. The experiential side of it, becoming UX designer, getting into tech, doing all that came from the gaming world, okay? That was the end goal, is to eventually be making games. Somehow along the line, right, UX design became a thing. Being a UI designer became a thing. I was really lucky when I started. I consider the start of my career is high school, actually, when I interned. So I was an apprentice for an art director at my father's newspaper. He ran a publication. Keep in mind, this was 2004, 2005. People were running Joomla content management systems or WordPress systems, right, to run their websites, or just outright coding them by hand and doing all the updates manually. So I was apprenticing under this fellow who was a really, really strong graphic designer. And I picked up a lot of things around Gestalt principles, right? Spacing and pacing and color theory and all of your core graphic design elements from this guy who had a really strong background in that. He's actually the one that taught me Illustrator and the vector tool.
Yeah.
The vector pen tool, which I remember as a young designer thinking that was such a big deal as learning Illustrator.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not sure.
I never started with Illustrator. I honestly, this is maybe sound crazy to say. My first design tool I used was Sketch.
Wow.
I jumped all the way to Sketch.
First of all, lucky you that you didn't have to deal with all the versions of tools that have happened in the history. And again, I'm probably dating myself saying this stuff, but
me too.
That was a wonderful experience to kind of break into what the world of design offers in terms of a career. And it was traditional graphic design, right, is based on a lot of core principles that you can carry over into the tech world. And we see it every day on our screens, on our phones, right? It's just that the scaling of the type sizes might be different or the spacing and coloring might be tighter. But a lot of those Gestalt principles still carry over into, I think, the visual world of UI design.
I'm really jealous of a lot of you guys who I've talked to who have that graphic design background. Because a lot of times I feel like I'm just learning as I go or kind of just absorbing principles as I go along and experts say this and that.
Yeah.
I really wish I had that kind of foundational graphic design.
I will say that it's really been interesting, and a lot probably about design systems now. That's been all the rage for the last 4 years. People talk about it nonstop. But a design system is essentially just a amalgamation of those concepts, those graphic design concepts in a system, right? So it's that was no different back when I was apprenticing, right? We had a design system. We didn't call it that, but it was you had the templates and the page layouts and the type hierarchy all set up for your print designs. It's really not any different. It's just the delivery mechanism is different, right? You have a phone now that you're delivering that content on. And so I think that you're not far removed from it. And it's you mentioned learning it kind of piecemeal, but that's okay. You're still familiar with the design systems and type sizing and color theory, right? It's just different. Color theory now, you have to understand how it's going to look on dark mode.
Yeah.
So it's not just doing light mode, it's doing dark mode. So yeah, and kind of going back to my career, like that was really the foundation for me jumping off into all tech. So like we had to do the website for this newspaper, right? It was a really important job. We had to build custom ads. Who was going to do it? Nobody else knew how to use the computer really, even other than me and this other guy. And he was too busy doing the print layouts. And so it was up to me to figure out, okay, we needed to build all this stuff in like HTML, like vanilla JavaScript. Like that was the days of Flash ads. So we could embed like Flash advertisements, right? Which was great. You could use Macromedia like Dreamweaver too to build like web pages and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of like how I started my career. And then yeah, like that was the career foundation. Went to college, spent 4 years getting a formal graphic design degree, bolted on throughout my time in college some human computer interaction classes, so that it was like human factors for the computer.
Yeah.
Like these classes were not geared towards like UI design, right? They didn't even call it user interface really. They just called it like human factors and human computer interaction principles and stuff. So kind of bolt those on. And then I ended up at a software engineering shop. And then eventually that was 2010-ish when I graduated college, got into a interaction agency called Universal Mind. And they did a number of like large clients. I remember working with Tempur-Pedic. We did like, you had to do a kiosk for their smart bed, right? You can adjust the numbers on the bed, and you had to have like an iPad app that was a companion to the bed. We did a first version of that. And so that agency experience got me into the world of mobile design, because that was when mobile got really hot, right? Like everybody wanted to be on an iPad. Everybody wanted to have an app. 2010, 2012, like doing that transition. So I feel really lucky, right? That like I was able to get my start in kind of the old school analog way, and then slowly ramp up as UX and UI design became a thing. So
insane. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Microsoft was after that?
Yeah. So I worked at that agency for a number of years. Had the opportunity to go work at Stack Overflow, which broke me into the world of basically all developer tooling. So like learning about developer tooling and like Q&A, like the question and answer format. And
you didn't have a developer background. You didn't code. You didn't like.
The most background I had was the self-learning I got through like basically using Adobe Dreamweaver, right? Tearing down pages, learning HTML syntax, and building things in tables, right? And doing like raw JavaScript and CSS. So it was all self-taught. Going to Stack Overflow, I got access to, I consider it some of the best front-end tutoring I could ever ask for. There were a number of gentlemen there that were just really sharp. There's a fellow who goes by Balfa there. I won't reveal who he really is, but Balfa, you can look him up probably on Stack Overflow. Incredible front-end developer. And learning it, you can learn a lot just by looking at how people coded and how they did and executed on their front end. And so those early days at Stack Overflow, you were hired as a web designer. You weren't hired as a UX designer. You were hired as a product and a web designer. And so you had to build everything that you were designing. And I think that that's a skill that over time has kind of been lost. As like a web designer coded and they designed, right? Now we don't do that as much. It's like you do a Figma design and you hand it off to somebody else. You throw it over the thing.
Hey, just a really quick break to tell you about the Studio 21 newsletter. If you're interested in Bitcoin and design, every month I highlight a few key pieces of Bitcoin or design related news or education. I think you're really going to find it valuable. So if you're interested, take a look. Go to sahilc.com/newsletter, give it a subscribe, and look forward to seeing you there. Now back to the episode.
Not to get off on this tangent, maybe we'll
weave
back into it. Like it feels like we might be getting back to that in a certain sense.
I love that you're heading there, because I think that we are.
Okay, I'm so excited to get there.
I think that door is opening now, where designers who maybe went to a UX boot camp, they did a Google certification or something, and they were like, I want to learn how to do design for screens, not fully understanding how to code them and how they are rendered. Now more than ever have an opportunity to go backwards in time. And like, I'm designing this thing in Figma, and you can use tools like Replit and like, there's like a lot of other AI front-end framework toolings now that are allowing people to maybe dabble in like building their own custom interface without having a developer involved. And I think that's wonderful, because you're going to get naturally curious and be like, it's not doing exactly what I want, and now I got to go hack away on it a little bit. So, and then GitHub Copilot, right? Like, if you're coding it, it's like now you can just ask GitHub Copilot to like debug, like, why is this menu not closing when I want it to and stuff. So,
or like Cursor and all these tools.
Yeah, Cursor, that's a great one too, I think.
So I really wish you were here for this, and I should have told you about it. But last night there was we now have a recurring AI meetup at Bitcoin Park, Austin. And so last night, Anthony and Justin Moon run this meetup. Last night we did a meetup of demos for what people's AI workflow is. And so I presented my workflow, which is, by the way, very new, and I'm not like an expert at this at all.
But, I will say I am either, but yeah.
But I don't know if you can sense my excitement. Over the last 2 weeks, my workflow has been radically changed. I'm kind of late to it, maybe in some sense, maybe not really, but like I haven't been in Figma in 2 weeks because I've been in V0 like for 2 weeks.
Yep,
just
by
like
Vercel, right?
By Vercel. And I'm just like basically vibe coding. I have a voiced transcription app, and I'm just talking to V0 and being like, here's a screenshot of my Figma or the actual app, recreate it. Okay, cool. Now add a column in the table. Oh, move this button here.
Yeah.
Make it clickable. Do this. And I'm just like talking to this engineer basically, and it's building it out in front of my eyes. I don't really care what the code is, but I have a clickable prototype that I can take to customers and be like, test this, yeah.
Which is the most important thing, is like getting to market quickly with your idea. And when I say market, it doesn't have to be like I launched it. It can just be like getting in front of your target customer, or hallway testing with friends that maybe could be your target customer, right?
Yeah.
That time is of the essence. And so like you're just saving so many cycles of like struggle trying to make sure that you even have the right idea.
Yeah.
By doing this type of framework, right?
For sure. I mean, literally it's, I think 10 or 100x in terms of the amount of time I would have spent to build a whole Figma screen. And it wasn't pixel perfect at all. It was frankly not great. It was like
that's how my experience has been. It's like, does it use the best graphic design principles and do the best design system? Absolutely not.
No.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet. But it was good enough to be like, oh, this kind of looks roughly okay. How much of that have you played around with, or not really? Or
V0 is actually the one that I played with, and I did this probably 6 to 8 months ago. I was essentially scaffolding like conceptual app, right? I actually run a paintball and airsoft business on the side, and I was like, what if we did basically a eBay clone, really is what it is for airsoft, because there's several forums out there that do this, and they all do it really poorly. And I was like, we can probably do a better version of that. Like, what would that be like? And I started scaffolding it out, and I was just like not pleased with like some of the, again, like you have to deal with this in, I think, early versions of AI where it starts like hallucinating on certain buttons. It's putting things in weird places. But overall, my experience was great because I feel like, to your point, I was able to get it in front of my co-founder and be like, what do you think of these things, right?
Yeah.
And it was literally just like you mentioned, vibe coding. I didn't spend that much time really thinking it through. I was just like, this is my concept. Give me a quick high level like first draft. I knew it was going to be rough, but I was able to get some pretty valuable feedback from him, like, right? And it didn't take me very much time invested. I think that's like the bottom line, is like, we're all busy.
Yeah.
And we're increasingly getting busy. If you have your hands in a lot of different projects, you have kids, you have other thing going on. It's just such a force multiplier, right?
It's insane. And I'm actually curious what you think about this, because the way I've been working, like the workflow is I have that V0 like you've been talking about. And on the left, I have like Grok or some other ChatGPT or whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're trying to find a solution to a problem, I just talk to Grok and be like, here's one solution I thought of. Can you give me 10 more? And it literally, because, okay.
Divergent thinking is like one of the biggest things that I think that it really empowers us to do. And I love that aspect of it, that it can shoot you down so many different serendipitous routes. And I'm like really big on this idea of serendipity, like creating serendipity vehicles, because they open up opportunities for you, right? And what a great way to kind of increase your surface area, your luck surface area, as it were, right? If you were to think of luck as a surface area, how can you quickly like diverge and get a lot of ideas out there? And I think encouraging designers to use it in that way. Don't use it to do your work, but use it to like challenge some of your assumptions too. Like do a counterpoint on this. Like I have this idea for this, like again, this buy sell app, poke holes in it, act like my biggest critic.
I didn't think of that. Oh, that's cool.
I think that that's like a great way to do it, is like almost you're role playing with it. Going back to video games, right? You're role playing with it. You can create all these different characters that do counterpoints, or like try to play devil's advocate on what you're doing.
Devil's advocate, yeah.
Or they can be like, play, do my greatest customer advocate, like, or be a salesman of whatever I'm thinking of. So how would I position it in that way? So as a divergent thinker, as a multifaceted, like kind of like apply different lenses on top of what I'm working on, it's wonderful for that. I tend to personally, I have kept a lot of my like AI frameworks light. It's like I have a lot of projects in ChatGPT that I will spin up for whatever I'm working on. And I'm just trying, I think me personally, I'm trying to make sure that I have some sort of organizational layer, right? Like inside ChatGPT for my different projects. Like I even do it for Dungeons and Dragons. Like I'm playing a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. Well, I have a fucking project for it, right? And I have like my character's stats in there and like all that stuff. So again, I will admit that I'm like not super advanced in it, and I'm not using it in like crazy advanced ways like some of our peers maybe are.
Yeah.
But certainly embracing it.
So I'm curious about this then. So it's kind of related, like building on that topic. I'm kind of been, the more I've been diving down this path, and as you are as well, I kind of have this sense that like maybe product design and maybe even like front end engineering roles will kind of start to converge at some point. Do you have that sense, or do you still feel like there'll be more of a separation, or maybe it depends on the size of the company?
I think that it behooves you as we move to this world where you're able to manage agents. That's what I'm kind of calling them, right? You can create standard operating procedures for something that you're doing. Let's say it's building a design system or doing an illustration system even, or you could be, setting up a framework for like your design bits and how you want to set up your design artifacts and your specifications. Taking all that stuff and offloading it into the machine and then like using those to scale yourself is just like wonderful. And I do believe that we're getting a little bit closer to what originally was a web designer, basically what it was called then. But now it's just like you're an experienced designer and you're thinking about it from the product angle. You're thinking about it from like, how does that manifest itself in the UI and the UX, right? And then as well, like, can you just make it happen?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to wait on the developer or go hire somebody for $10,000 to help you build a prototype of your app. It's like, I can just get my ideas out there. So again, it's a really exciting place to be at. We're going to see like, I think a huge boom in the creator space, like, and designers have never been better positioned, I think, to be owners of products and like get incredible customer value out there and like build businesses that you've always wanted to build that you've been limited by. I'm not a coder. I'm not a traditional programmer, or I'm not a traditional marketer, or I'm not a traditional program manager. It's like, no, you don't have that excuse really anymore, in my opinion.
It's so funny you say that, because I was reading this newsletter by Julie Zuo or Zhao.
Yeah,
She
was at Facebook.
Yeah. And one of the things she said was like, I think her article was like the death of the product or traditional product team or something. It was like the two pizza team idea or whatever, that kind of thing. And she was basically like, stop labeling yourself with like either I'm a designer or I'm an engineer, or like being attached to this identity. You're just like a builder, or you're like a problem solver, and you just get it done.
And it seems generic, but like even I was working on my personal portfolio recently, and I was like really struggling with the headline, and obviously like I was trying to do some divergent stuff, and I was like, I really just I like to put that I design things, but really it's like I'm a thinker. I'm about a lot of things. So it's like, what am I about? Well, I'm about leadership in all phases. Like I coach athletes, right? I lead design teams. I lead my family. I lead my business, right? I love doing that. So it's like, I'm going to lean into that and just say, I'm a leader. I am a creator. Like, what do you create? I create digital things, but I also create physical things too, right? Like businesses and stuff like that. And so part of it's like just being authentic. And like you said, detaching yourself from having this like strong identity tied to a label.
The label,
like I'm a PM.
Right.
Like that's what I do. It's like, no, you're like a product thinker.
Yeah.
And now more than ever, like I was talking to peers that I'm like, hey, you can bridge that gap of the things that you're weak at. Continue to invest in the things you're strong at. I feel like that's really important. Is like, there's a reason you got to where you are, and your superpower is still really important. And don't feel discouraged that AI is going to maybe do a better job than you. It's actually like, it can enhance you and make you like a super soldier in some ways, but you can also enhance all the weak points that you have. Like, maybe I'm not the best at building requirements documents, but now with the help of a tool, I can be pretty strong at that, right?
It's almost like raising the floor kind of, I guess.
And deficiencies in terms of thinking, like if you're a neurodivergent thinker, or you have dyslexia, like there's just so many things that can help people overcome and become, again, just like a super soldier, a superhuman thinker.
Yeah.
And use it in that way, and don't be so afraid of it, in my opinion. I have a friend, Rocky Rourke, you know him, Blue Cyclops, he runs a design agency, and he creates content that is somewhat controversial because it's talking about to designers, and I think a lot of visual designers are very afraid of where the industry is going because it's replacing a lot of the manual creativity. We saw the whole Ghibli thing where everybody is like throwing their images into ChatGPT, in my opinion, using up valuable resources that shouldn't be used on trivial stuff like that. We love to have fun as humans, though, and so that's okay, I guess. But copying creators' work, it blurs this line, and there's like really big ethical questions around like, should that be allowed? Like, should that be a thing where you can just mimic other people's styles in seconds and in instances? And Rocky was kind of like arguing like, you know, don't be so precious over like the artifact you're creating. It's the value you bring to the client.
Wow,
like,
well
how
said.
how can you 10 times their position? Like, you're working with clients and you're working with other humans, and you're just able to deliver things faster maybe in your style, and look at it that way. And I mean, obviously we don't want anybody copying our work. We don't like that. Like as artists, you'd hate to see people take your style and like adapt it. And I don't think we're ever going to chase down, like, the genie's been out of the bottle a little bit, right? Like we can't police everything, but it's like, how are we now going to differentiate ourselves as thinkers, as collaborators, as like people who can help other people with these tools? And so be curious and continue to use the tooling. Don't push against it and like hate on it, right?
Yeah, you can't stop it. Like I think about it like Bitcoin or encryption. It's like you can't stop Bitcoin. You can't stop end-to-end encryption of messaging. You can't. So like, what are you going to do about it now?
Yep. And I think him and his agency, right, they've like taken a stab at trying to really embrace it, and they're embracing it in a number of ways. Like, you know, I think I mentioned standard operating procedures, brand guides, brand kits, design systems. Like, how do you take all this tooling and these like pretty advanced processes and then start putting them into some standard frameworks, right? And like, how do you also bring that to the client and like make it more affordable for them to have good design?
Yeah.
Like, because that's what it does, is it like frees them up to have more clients and help more people
100%.
and do it at a higher bar of quality across the board. What's wrong with that? I think that's like altruistically, like you're helping more people and you're doing it in less time. And maybe you get time back in your day, right? Because you're not spending as much time writing out a doc.
It's like that abundance mindset. Which you know this already, but like Rocky's podcast, I've learned a lot from him. Like I think it's called The Design Break or something like that.
That's exactly it.
But yeah, I mean, I've been listening for I think a while now, like maybe a year or two, a couple of years. So
yeah, like I said, there's some very interesting comments and counterpoints that get brought up on his posts that he's like kind of like talking about AI and how to embrace it. And I think those are all like, we need to be very truthful with each other, and those are the types of conversations that need to be happening right now, because we can still impact the shaping of the tools. And we are consumers using them, and we're giving feedback on how the future is being developed. So
hey, just a really quick break to tell you about the Studio 21 newsletter. If you're interested in Bitcoin and design, every month I highlight a few key pieces of Bitcoin or design related news or education. I think you're really going to find it valuable. So if you're interested, take a look. Go to sahilc.com/newsletter, give it a subscribe, and look forward to seeing you there. Now back to the episode.
I'm excited about it. I think like I said, the way I'm thinking about it for my teams and how I'm instructing the people that I am working with and the designers that I am mentoring is take it as a challenge to take the tool and use it to learn the things you've never been able to learn, right? Become a better programmer, like get curious and start building your own ideas. Don't just stick to the one tool. Like, again, I coach and I collaborate with traditional UX designers, and so they're stuck in tooling like Figma, maybe using Photoshop, maybe using Illustrator, all those types of things. How can you use it to maybe learn automations inside Illustrator? Figma, I just started playing with the Figma Beta today. Like they rolled out all their AI features. And there were some things in there around first drafts. There's image creation in the tool. There's automations for interactions. You can only do 10 frames right now, but you can select them. You just literally highlight them, and you go, AI, set up my interactive prototype. Bam, it's done. Get you 85% of the way there. That is one of the most annoying features in Figma if you've ever used it. Like the spaghetti noodling of like, the spaghetti noodling of the interaction and like making all that work together is just a fucking nightmare. And so I love seeing that the tooling is doing the things that humans don't want to do. Like we're lazy by nature, and so we want that stuff to just be like done for us.
For sure.
Those are wonderful, I think, executions of where AI can help out.
It's so exciting.
I think where we start falling down, and again, we were playing with it today, it's like, generate me an image of a tech bro, and the tech bro had like, an earbud in, and it's like, okay, well, we don't want the earbud in there. It's like one small change, but it does a refactor of the entire
Of
thing.
the whole
It's
thing.
like,
Yeah.
and that's the thing that drives me nuts sometimes about the coding tools too, is like, it's like, I don't need to refactor the whole thing. I just need like this tiny little snippet to be redone. Keep the rest of the image the same, please.
And some of them are getting better. Like I think Bolt.new
Mm-hmm.
has like a new experimental feature where it'll only like do a diff. It won't rewrite freaking everything.
Wonderful.
It's like nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. And this stuff is like literally changing every couple weeks, every month. Is like, yeah, it's insanely fast.
One of the comments that I had like early versions of V0 was like coherency across like the different templating, like making sure that things were done in a way that like would be more human readable, making sure that like it's reusing classes in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't hallucinate as much in that way. But again, it's been a while since I've used that tool in particular. I just kind of got sidetracked by other things. But yeah, how about you? What are you finding that's really been useful to your framework? You said over the last 2 weeks it's really blossomed. Honestly, I would love to learn from you. Like,
honestly, it's really those two main things, is like Grok or something equivalent, GPT, or just like a chatting interface, something that has reasoning, and then like a prototyping thing like V0. I'm just able to go to talking to this quote unquote other designer, and oftentimes I'll start a new chat and be like, "You are a principal staff level designer for this chat. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's just a few screenshots. Here's the solution I'm thinking of. Like I said, give me a bunch of other solutions, or like you said, tell me where I'm doing wrong." And then I'll pop into V0 and start plugging in stuff there. Literally making 30 different variations of stuff.
It's amazing.
I'll send you a link or show you. But I'm thinking the next step beyond that is maybe actually contributing code to like
production environments.
Yeah, like actually downloading Cursor and submitting PRs to do simple things, right? Like I should be able to change the color of a button if I want to. I shouldn't have to bother an engineer to do something simple like that, right? So
unless you have, and again, I think that the tooling will probably get there to where they'll be like, all right, like this person is not as technical, so they're not technically flagged in the system as a programmer, but there's some sort of transformer that happens along the way with their prototype that they built and getting it into production code base. It'd still maybe have to go through an actual like human check.
Yeah.
But it gets it to a state of code readiness. This would be amazing, right? You do the prototype and it's in a state of code readiness where a dev can just like literally be like, oh, this is like 99% of the way there. There's just some stuff that's like semantically incorrect with how you did it. But I'm going to take it and pull it.
And I'm sure even AI can help them with that too, and just be like, translate this to match the semantic or the syntax or whatever.
The transformer does all that for you.
Do all that for you.
And I think that would be cool to see that. One other thing I was going to mention is for leaders, and in particular for me, like I love to give really good coaching feedback. And you know this from your time working with me. Like I love giving good coaching feedback to my direct reports. And I think that it's a phenomenal note-keeping tool based on like every week, like how was the morale of your team? And like you had maybe not a challenging conversation, but just a conversation that got you thought-provoking with your maybe coworker. Put that in the tool. And then, you know, when review season comes around or you're trying to give good coaching feedback or cues to somebody, that's all a part of your extended brain. Like it's not just locked in a notebook. It's actually like something that you can then query and be like, hey, like my review is coming up and like I would love to take the last 3 months of thoughts that I've collected on this person and their performance and the things they've done, their wins, their losses, the challenges they've had and the things they've overcome, and put it together in a way that's going to make them feel good.
Yeah.
Right. Like, again, everybody gets really busy. And I think that it can be easy to discount or write off like performance reviews. But those are like human touch points that you should really value and spend time with when you're a leader. And so how can these tools help you create that encyclopedia of that human being and like all the great things they're doing for you? And then present it in a way that like feels really meaningful and is like also heartfelt, because you can take that stuff and you can embellish it with your own personality on top of it. And that has been really a strong point for me. Is like, how do I bridge the gap between being a leader and manager, but then also being a human and making sure that I am giving them feedback that's actionable, valuable, and like impactful ultimately. Cause like, it's easy to be like, just put it on remote and be like, yeah, you're doing a great job. Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Cool. Be a little bit more human and also spend time deep diving.
Which, by the way, before we started talking, I reached out to, I won't say who, just to protect your privacy mostly, but like I reached out to a bunch of people that we both work with and who mutual friends, and just to ask them about like, oh, what's their experience working with you, and can you highlight a couple things? And consistently, two of the things, just think of two things, were like amazing leadership ability, and clearly that's something you think about and you focus on. And some other things were like really fun to work with, really good personality, and I can agree with that. So yeah, your leadership point is like,
I think as a leader, like clarity is one of the most important things you can do. Making sure that you have your direct reports back and making sure that they feel supported and that you're like, you should be like the dad or the mom that's like putting their work on the fridge and like talking about it to everybody, right? They should feel like they're taken care of. And I think that that's an important part of your job as a leader, is like signaling up and making sure people know about the great stuff that your people are doing, not out of an ego sense. It's like, don't be taking credit for their shit, but like put them on a pedestal and be like, you know what? I just set them up and then they did the rest. Like they did an amazing job. That's like one of the most important things you can do. That's how I like to lead. The clarity part, like taking things that are being said at leadership levels and at strategic levels and making sure people know how to freaking act on that. Like, all right, don't pay attention to any of this noise.
Right.
Like only focus in on this specific thing that you can do the lifting on. Everything else is a distraction, right?
Yeah.
And this is the clarity for the business. And this is how I can make you feel like you're winning every day. It should feel like you're progressing and you're contributing to things that matter, right? Like that we all want that. We all want to feel like we're helping things grow and we're pushing it forward and making it meaningful contribution.
It's like a translation layer almost to like make both sides more effective.
Yeah.
Like
and
leadership, but also
we both know Matt McManus.
Yes,
and I think that he exhibited that as well. Like as a leader, this guy has always come through as like creating clarity. This is the thing you need to act on to make you feel empowered. So that's a great example of that. And then on the flip side of this, we got to have fun while doing it. So don't be so serious.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Like at the end of the day, let's be able to joke around, and it may come off as more being like kind of aloof or like playful or maybe not super business serious, but I can get really serious if I want to, right? But nobody wants to work with that all the time. So if 90% of the time I'm being fun and it's loose, that's great. And then the 10% of the time we got to lock it down.
Yeah.
We'll do that and we'll get the business done. But yeah, like I think that all this stuff is amazing. It's been great to see like your growth, kind of where you're going. I love hearing about the AI tooling.
Yeah.
We got to keep talking about that.
Yeah. And I know we're coming up on time. I want to be respectful of your time as well. Really quick, just thought I had based on what you were saying about the kind of communicating down in the sense of like using AI to have those notes and then summarize it. I was also thinking you could do the reverse, like in terms of going up. You could just have like a weekly check-in and just be like, oh, this is what I did this week. And then in your quarterly review or something, be like, hey, can you summarize this to be the most effective for my manager?
Oh, 1,000%.
I was like, wow.
That is,
I'm going to steal that idea.
Yes, you absolutely should be doing that. Like you keeping track of your own victories now more than ever, dude. It's so easy to take screenshots of when people are shouting you out.
Yes.
Like all that stuff. Like you have to be your own champion.
Wow.
And I think it's not from a place of like, you're not ego farming, but you got to keep that stuff. And I think that AI can just makes it so easy to sort through it. And it's like, don't be braggy, be very objective about what I'm giving you, but like go through and look at all my wins, go through and look at like even the failures. Like we need to admit when maybe we have an area that we can grow into that's going to help your team.
Yeah.
Right. How can I shore that up? Right. Give me some tips that maybe the people around me aren't willing to, they don't want to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
So like, give me the tips that I need to hear. Oh, also like now that we have persistent memory, like you can go across things, you can be like, over the last 3 months, like what have I been talking to you about the most? And like, give me some like tips on where I have blind spots.
Yeah. Do you think that's affecting my
my performance at all, or like how I could get better? So that's a great, I don't know, it's like a cool tutor almost, like that you have in your back pocket, literally on your phone. So
that's insane. I've literally never been more excited since I maybe first found Bitcoin in 2018. Like it's been a while since I felt this excited about something new. So yeah.
You look at today I saw Satya Nadella, he like tweeted out that they made a huge release in Microsoft Business 365, right? They call it Copilot right now. And they obviously have like the biggest customer base in the world in terms of enterprises and a lot of metrics around that. And they had some stat on there where leaders are outpacing individual contributors in the way that they're using AI. I have some opinions on why that might be. I think that obviously leaders are more privileged to have time to maybe do some of that. Like they can spend the time to look into new processes and new systems. They also might have access to them that their ICs don't have, right? Because of privacy, security concerns, all that. Maybe their ICs don't want to reveal that they are using AI because they're like, this would make it feel like it cheapens my work, which in fact, if you're a good leader and you have your team using AI, like in my opinion, that's like you should be encouraging it. It shouldn't be a bad thing that they're using it. Like you should be like, hell yeah, you fucking use it because like we need you to be more efficient. We need you to be in the ways that it will adapt to your unique use case, use it.
I had someone literally tell me like, don't tell your manager at Foundry that you're doing this because like
for whatever XYZ. And I was like, no, this should be the complete opposite. If you're listening, Mev,
I mean, do it within, make sure that they understand, like, I'm not going to release company information or do it in the approved tools that you 100%. Have access to, right? Like certain companies obviously want you to use their tooling, which is fine, but encourage it.
Yeah.
And say, it's okay how you're wanting to use it, you know? Yeah. So anyways, back to, I mean, Satya was like kind of posting that stuff, and they have like all these workspace like metrics and stuff. Ultimately, what came out of that post to me and resonated most, it was like a feature post, like here's all these exciting new features we're pushing out. But there was one thing that stuck with me. He was like, since, you know, the rise of the internet created a ton of new jobs. It created social media managers. It created content creators. It created UX designers, like even some specialized roles in the programming world didn't exist before the internet. We're going to see the exact same thing happen with AI, and you're going to become a manager of agents, right? You're going to have your own set of agents that are running to do all these different things like we talked about. And so becoming a more well-rounded, it's like the modern web designer, right? Or the modern experience thinker is really what it's going to ultimately, I think, come up to for us, for people like us that are designers.
Yeah.
Yep. And how can you be multifaceted and always be learning? Like you got to be doing that too. You got to always be like looking at what's ahead, try to position yourself in that, increasing that serendipity, luck surface area. Like, am I exposing myself to all these different tools, at least, you know, dipping my toes in so I can say I used it.
And by the way, it's never been easier to do that, even at a meta level, right? So like, not to dive too much in this rabbit hole, but like you might have seen Toby, Shopify's the CEO.
Yeah.
He put out this internal memo. He
was like, all of our people should be using AI.
Yes, but the phrase that he used, which resonated so much, was like reflexive AI use. So it was like, it should feel like just an extension. Like anytime you're trying to do something, you should reflexively think of pulling up GPT or Grok or Cursor or whatever. And I was like, wow, that makes total sense.
And to me, it's like, why wouldn't you? At least run your work by it. Check it. It's like knowledge check for all your work. So man, this has been fun.
No, this is great. Maybe just to wrap up and close out, like, what do you think? What are you trying to work on next? What are you prioritizing in terms of maybe your personal growth? And is there anything you want to plug, or just to my millions of listeners?
Yeah, your millions of listeners. I mean, I think obviously I plugged Blue Cyclops. I think that they're doing incredible work in the design world. If you're like Bitcoin or Bitcoin associated, they have some of the most subject matter expertise in the entire industry around that space. So that's my plug, is for other designers, helping other designers. They're also kind of on the cutting edge of like applying AI principles and tooling in their everyday design world. So I really am keen on that. Leadership wise, personally, like I think it's continuing to be a good person to those that I am working with every day, like collaborating, making sure that my teams feel empowered. They are happy with what the work that they're doing, and they're not getting left behind. I think that's the most important part right now. Is as leaders, we owe it to ourselves to make sure that people that we are reporting to us and are looking up to us are well equipped for a new future. That this is, I think, very uncertain in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so how can we position them for that? And I'm doing that personally for my own career. Like, how can I become more well-rounded? How can I become a better product thinker? Not just a designer. I have that on lock, right? Like I know that world.
Yes.
Now it's other worlds that it's like trying to expand my brain and kind of get into. So that's it, man. Thank you so much.
Dude, this is awesome. And I feel like every time I talk to you, I come out freaking more excited. And it's like,
I hope you're pumped up.
No, I'm super pumped. It's been like a couple of years, like you said. We text, but not like this. So yeah, thanks for coming on, and
thanks for bringing me to your pool.
No, we're at my pool here in Austin, and it's great, and yeah, I'm excited. We definitely have to do a round 2 next time you're here.
We will. Thank you,
so much more to talk to you about. So yeah, all right, thanks. Peace. Okay, that's it for this walk and talk conversation on Bitcoin design. Hope you found something interesting from it. Hope you got some interesting nuggets. If you liked it, and if you want to, feel free to give it a review, share it with someone else who might find it interesting. And genuinely, if you have any feedback, I really, really want to hear about it, positive or negative. So find me on Twitter at SahilC0, and I look forward to seeing you next time.